So, ready to explore the Bodhisattva path?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
We're going to take a deep dive into it today.
Oh, right.
We've got all sorts of cool sources,
Uh-huh.
ancient Buddhist texts, some modern interpretation.
Yeah.
Even some real-world examples. How about that?
That's cool, yeah.
I think you're going to be surprised by what we find.
All right. Well, I'm ready.
Yeah, one of the things that really struck me, was just how different this path is from what people might think when they hear Buddhism.
Right.
It's not just about, sitting under a tree and meditating and reaching enlightenment for yourself. It's about helping everybody.
Right. It's for the benefit of all beings.
That's right. All beings.
That's the key.
Now, that's a pretty powerful concept.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
I mean, especially like in Western culture, which is so individualistic.
Absolutely.
It's like the opposite.
Yeah, one of our sources, The Path of the Bodhisattvas, it actually contrasts the Bodhisattva path with, what some people call the Arhat path.
Okay.
And both of them aim for enlightenment, but the Arhat path is really focused on individual liberation.
Gotcha.
Whereas the Bodhisattva takes a vow to work tirelessly for the liberation of all beings.
So, like, their own enlightenment is dependent on everyone else's enlightenment.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, they're intertwined.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and that commitment, that dedication is really expressed through the Bodhisattva vow.
Okay.
It's like a formal dedication to guiding all beings towards liberation from suffering.
So how do they put that into practice?
Well, the book breaks it down
Okay.
into 3 key foundations.
Right.
The field of merit, the Bodhisattva vow, and skillful means, or upaya.
Ooh, I like the sound of that. Field of merit.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
So what is that exactly?
So think of it as this fertile ground where positive actions, they just flourish and multiply. And that benefits everyone. It's not just some abstract idea.
Right.
It's found in the Sangha, a community of Buddhist practitioners.
So the Sangha is more than just a group of people who meditate together?
Much more, yeah.
Okay.
In fact, the book uses this really powerful analogy.
Okay.
It describes the Sangha as like a vast ocean. And each individual is like a drop of water contributing to its purity, its immensity.
So we're all connected.
We are.
Like, even if one person does something negative.
Yeah, it can affect the whole.
It affects everybody.
Like a polluted drop can affect the entire ocean, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's not just about individual actions, but about how those actions ripple outwards.
Right, see.
And impact the entire community.
That makes me think about, like, paying it forward.
Yeah.
Like one person's kindness can inspire so many others.
Exactly. That's the essence of the field of merit.
That's beautiful.
And the Bodhisattva vow, that's the driving force behind those actions.
It's like a compass.
Yeah.
Guiding them.
Yeah. Guiding their every step toward helping others.
Wouldn't it be easy to get lost?
Oh, yeah.
With such a big vow.
That's a huge undertaking.
To help all beings.
That's where the Sangha comes in.
Okay.
It provides support, a structure for living out that vow.
It's not just you on your own trying to figure it all out.
Right. It's a collective effort.
So working together, supporting each other along the way.
Absolutely.
That's really important.
It's like a living reminder of that commitment, offering opportunities to, practice generosity, cultivate patience through real-world interactions, learn from each other's experiences.
That sounds like the perfect training ground for those 6 perfections.
Oh, you remember this?
Yeah, I do.
Generosity, ethical conduct, patience, diligence, meditation, concentration, and wisdom.
Yeah, those are essential qualities for a bodhisattva.
That's right. Yeah.
Transforming ourselves and the world around us.
Yeah, and that's where the 10 bodhisattva precepts come in.
Oh, yeah.
They're ethical guidelines that help put those perfections into practice.
Our source mentioned those, too. They offer a pretty clear roadmap for living a more ethical life. And a harmonious life.
Yeah, absolutely. They cover so much. Avoiding harming living beings, refraining from harmful speech.
Right.
Even guidelines for sexual conduct.
It's important to remember, though, that interpretations can vary.
Oh, absolutely.
Depending on the Buddhist school or the cultural context.
For sure, for sure.
We don't want to oversimplify anything.
Right, it's complex.
But it's fascinating that something as ancient as this path can have so many different interpretations, applications. Speaking of applications, you mentioned skillful means, or upaya, as a key foundation.
Yes.
So what does that mean in this context?
It means recognizing that there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
To enlightenment.
To enlightenment, exactly.
Okay.
Skillful means involves adapting the teachings to different circumstances, different people, different capabilities.
So being creative and flexible in applying the Dharma to real-world situations.
Exactly.
That's what makes it so relevant today. It's not about, some strict dogma.
Right.
It's about finding ways to express these principles.
Yeah.
compassion, and wisdom in a way that makes sense for modern life.
That's it.
Now, this is where it gets really exciting for me.
All right.
I want to hear how these ancient teachings are showing up in the modern world.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
But before we do, let's talk about the role of the teacher on the Bodhisattva path.
Yeah, that's important.
I'm curious about the role of the teacher on the Bodhisattva path.
Okay.
You know, you hear about gurus and masters in Eastern traditions. What's that relationship like in Mahayana Buddhism?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's important to remember that the teacher's not seen as this authoritarian figure, more like a guide.
Okay.
One of our sources actually has this really beautiful quote from the Buddhist scholar Shantideva. It says, "A true teacher inspires rather than commands."
So it's less about blind faith and more about finding a mentor who can help you see the path more clearly.
Exactly. Yeah, encouraging self-discovery, not dictating beliefs or practices.
So they point the way, but it's up to you to walk it.
Yeah, you're in the driver's seat.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It aligns with the emphasis on personal responsibility.
Yeah.
We see that a lot in Buddhist teaching.
For sure.
But speaking of guidance, our source material, I really emphasize the Sangha as a source of support and reflection.
Yeah.
You even mentioned the Sangha as a mirror.
I did.
Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, it's fascinating. One of the coolest things I found in our research.
Oh, really?
Think about it this way.
Okay.
In the Sangha, how we interact with others becomes a mirror.
Okay.
It reflects our inner state.
How so?
Well, how we react to others, the judgments we make, the frustrations we have, they all reveal our attachments, our blind spots, the areas where we need to grow.
So it's not just about learning from teachings, but also learning from the people around us.
Absolutely. It's a living laboratory.
And sometimes those reflections might not be so pleasant.
No, sometimes they're not.
Right.
But the Sangha, it provides that safe space to work through those challenges, to practice patience and compassion, and to learn and grow from those experiences.
It's like the Sangha is a training ground for developing those bodhisattva qualities.
Exactly. And that brings us back to upaya.
Skillful means.
Skillful means, because guess what? This idea of reflection, it's not limited to the Sangha.
Oh, okay.
It extends to our whole lives.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So the whole world becomes a mirror for the bodhisattva.
That's it. You got it.
That's a pretty radical idea.
It is. It is.
It's like turning everyday life into a spiritual practice.
That's a beautiful way to put it. Yeah.
It's not just about retreating to a monastery.
Right.
Or meditating for hours.
It's about bringing that awareness, that intention to alleviate suffering into every aspect of our lives.
That aligns with, what's it called, engaged Buddhism?
Yeah, engaged Buddhism.
Can you explain what that means?
Sure. It's about taking action to create a more just and compassionate world.
Okay.
So it's applying the Buddhist teachings to social and political issues, working for the well-being of all beings.
It's not just about personal practice.
Right.
It's about taking that inner transformation and using it to make a difference in the world.
You got it. Exactly. It's about recognizing that our liberation is interconnected with the liberation of all beings.
And that our actions have a real impact.
Absolutely. And that's powerful.
It is powerful.
So what are some examples of how this is playing out today?
Yeah, give us some examples.
Well, we see all these Buddhist-inspired organizations tackling climate change, advocating for social justice, working to alleviate poverty, promoting peace.
Wow.
You have Buddhist teachers and activists at the forefront of all these movements.
That's so cool.
Environmental protection, prison reform, even conflict resolution.
It's really inspiring to see how these ancient teachings are being used to address these big issues.
Yeah, the problems of our time.
So it's not just these big movements.
Right.
It can also be in our everyday lives.
Absolutely. It starts with awareness.
Okay.
Paying attention to on our choices. Even the small ones impact the world.
Like what? Give me an example.
Like choosing ethically sourced products.
Okay.
Reducing our environmental footprint. Speaking out against injustice.
Right. So it's about bringing those principles of compassion and mindfulness into our daily actions.
Exactly. And it can also involve getting involved in our communities, volunteering our time, our resources.
What about technology?
Oh, interesting question.
Yeah, we can't ignore that, right?
No, we live in a digital world.
How does technology play a role in engaged Buddhism?
It's a double-edged sword.
How so?
On one hand, it can connect us to this global community.
Okay.
It gives us access to information, resources like virtual sanghas.
You mentioned those before.
I did.
I have to admit, the idea of a spiritual community online,
it's
a little weird to me.
I understand. It's not the same as in person.
Yeah.
But it's a unique opportunity.
For who?
People who might not have access to a traditional Buddhist community.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Maybe they live in a rural area. Yeah. Maybe they have a disability.
Yeah.
Or they just haven't found a Sangha that resonates with them.
So they feel isolated.
Yeah, marginalized.
Yeah.
And while online interaction has its downsides,
yeah, for sure,
virtual Sanghas can offer a valuable space.
For what?
For learning, for support, for collective practice.
It seems like a challenge for modern Buddhists to balance engaging with technology.
Yeah, in a way that supports their spiritual growth.
Okay.
Without getting lost in all the noise.
Yeah.
Another example of upaya.
Right. Adapting to the modern world.
That's it.
And speaking of challenges,
yeah,
modern life is demanding.
Oh, it is.
Even for those on the Bodhisattva path.
Right.
So how do we reconcile this vast Bodhisattva vow with work, family, all those responsibilities? It's a great question.
How do we balance our own needs with this commitment to helping all beings?
That's where the Sangha as a mirror comes in again, right?
Exactly.
Oh, okay. How does that work? So we're talking about using the Sangha as a mirror, even outside of, formal settings.
Yeah, exactly.
How does that work in everyday life?
It's like taking that awareness we cultivate in meditation and bringing it into all our interactions with family, friends, coworkers, even strangers.
Okay.
So paying attention to how we react to difficult situations, noticing the judgment that come up, the frustrations.
So we're getting annoyed.
Exactly.
Yep.
Those moments, they're like big flashing signs pointing to the areas where we need to grow.
So those challenging interactions, they're opportunities
to
practice patience, compassion, understanding.
It's all about perspective.
And sometimes the mirror is our own inner voice, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like the way we talk to ourselves, the expectations we have, the self-criticism.
That inner critic can be pretty harsh.
It can.
Yeah, so that reflects our attachments too. Maybe where we need more self-compassion.
So we're not just looking outward, we're looking inward as well. It's a whole new way of looking at things.
It's a shift, for sure.
Instead of seeing challenges as obstacles, we see them as opportunities to learn.
Yeah, to grow.
It's not easy, though, is it?
No, it's not a fake walk.
Life could be tough.
Life throws curveballs, that's for sure.
So how do we stay in that bodhisattva mindset?
Yeah, it's a good question.
When things are really difficult.
Well, it's important to remember that the bodhisattva path isn't about being perfect.
Oh, okay.
It's not about reaching some, unwavering state of enlightenment. It's about recognizing that we're all works in progress.
Always learning, yeah.
Exactly. Always learning, always growing.
And that's where emptiness and karma come in.
Yeah, they can really help us through the ups and downs.
We talked about emptiness earlier.
We did, shunyata.
Yeah, remind me what that means.
It's the idea that nothing has this, fixed, independent existence.
Okay.
Everything is interconnected, impermanent.
Always changing.
Constantly changing, and that includes us.
So there's no solid, unchanging self.
That's the idea. Yeah, it's about letting go of that.
And why is that liberating?
Well, because when we cling to these rigid identities and beliefs, we create suffering.
For ourselves and others?
For everyone, yeah. It's like holding onto a sandcastle as the tide comes in.
It's going to get washed away.
It's inevitable.
So emptiness is about letting go.
Yeah, it's about riding the waves with more grace and ease.
Being flexible.
Yeah, adapting.
That's important in the modern world.
It is so important.
And how does karma fit in?
Karma reminds us that our actions have an impact, a ripple effect.
It's not just about grand gestures, right?
No, it's the little things, Dave.
Our everyday choices.
Everything, every action, every word.
Wow.
Even every thought.
That's a lot to consider.
It is, but it's also empowering.
How so?
Because it means we can create positive change through our choices, no matter how small.
So even if we're feeling overwhelmed by the vastness of the Bodhisattva vow, we can still make a difference.
We can by remembering that our efforts to alleviate suffering, even in small ways, matter.
They ripple outwards.
They do. They contribute to the interconnectedness of everything.
This has been quite a journey.
It has.
We've learned so much.
We have, from the ancient foundations to modern expressions and even some deep philosophy.
Yeah, and I think what's really stood out for me is how relevant this path is.
It is, isn't it?
It's not just beliefs or practices.
It's a way of life.
Yeah, a way of being in the world.
Exactly, engaging with each moment.
With awareness.
With compassion.
And the intention to make things better.
That's the heart of it.
That's a beautiful vision.
It is.
Especially for today's world.
Yeah. Yeah, it gives me hope.
Me too.
So as we wrap up, any final thoughts for our listeners?
Yeah, something for them to think about.
We've talked about the Sangha as a mirror and the world as a mirror.
reflecting our inner state.
Exactly. So as you go about your day, consider this. What if your work, your relationships, even the challenges you face are all mirrors?
Wow.
Reflecting parts of yourself you might not see otherwise.
I like that.
Pay attention to those reflections.
What are they showing us?
There's so much wisdom there.
That's a powerful reminder.
It is, isn't it?
The Bodhisattva path.
Yeah.
It's a journey, not a destination.
It's about discovery, growth.
So keep those eyes open.
Yeah.
Hearts compassionate.
Remember, every interaction is a chance to learn, to grow.
To make the world a little bit better.
That's it.
If you want to learn more, check out the resources in the show notes.
We've got some great stuff there.
And until next time,
keep
diving deep.